briefed you about him previously also. He was featured in the Forbes 30 under 30 list this year, the Asia version. So welcome, good sir. Uh, Shikhar will be the host for the day, and without taking more time, I would like to pass on the stage to Shikhar and Satnik sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm joining in from my warehouse actually today, since there has been a couple of things that has been going on. Thank you again.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shikhar Badhwal, member of ESEL. Pleasure to meet you all. Satnik sir, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really a great honor for us. Let's just put a little bit of context on where we are. Satnik Roy is a mechanical engineer turned entrepreneur and the co-founder of Hyper Exchange and East India's first Forbes 30 under 30. Authored the classic Retreat of Anarchy and I Met the Demon. He has done his post-graduation from Stanford University. He has also been featured over CNBC, Hindustan Times, Times of India, and several other media platforms. He also holds a Guinness World Record. He has spoken in several media forums and universities, including IITs and IIMs. He was hosted and honored by the Consultor General of Scotland and Japan. Hyper Exchange has been invested by IIM Calcutta, Microsoft, CP Gurnani, Tebu Mukherjee, Mukesh Soni, and several other investors. Hyper Exchange was also featured as a case study in PM Modi's official government manual for PM Yuva. Satnik sir, handing over to you. Please tell us about your journey.
Thank you, Shikhar. Thank you for the warm introduction. Hello, guys. Just another day of life, right? You can probably see me joining in from my warehouse with all the, say, for example, with all the stocks and everything over here, right? That's how things happen, right? And well, about my journey, I would say I just had a brief mail from university, which mentioned like these are the early joining students out there, right? Uh, I would say this is probably the first and foremost thing. If you look at my journey, right, I started my first entrepreneurial career at the age of 18, right? This is my second startup. My first startup was towards a fintech, right, which was later acquired by a London-based bank. And moving on from there, I realized, there's a great opportunity towards climate positivity, sustainability, electronics, and building a D2C brand. That's where Hyper Exchange happened, right? To be very honest, I don't come from a business family background, right? The first startup I ever started was not even incorporated. So I started not even realizing that these were the early days of say Internshala. These were the early days of internships, right? 2013, 2014, when all these websites were coming up. They did not have a proper background check, so it was easy to hire interns back then than probably it would be today. I was running a company which did not even was not even incorporated, and I had interns around 10, 15 of them working for me, right? That's how the journey started. Having said that, what I always mention, since I mentioned this point, what I always say out there is, anything you do, you have to start somewhere, right? It's always said in the journey of entrepreneurship, you jump off the cliff and build your airplane before you hit the ground, right? That is a very common say, and I always believe, if you are looking forward to start something up and you do not know where to start up, right? Which point to start things up? Is it the idea phase? Is it probably building a product out there? Is it, say for example, building getting a co-founders, whatsoever it is? The first and foremost thing is you need to start somewhere. Once you start, then you figure everything out. You do not know anything out there like everyone else out. No one knows anything out how to build companies, how to build brands, how to build something which will probably have a vintage for 5, 7, 10 years, 25 years, or so on and so forth. Somewhere you just need to push yourself to start something up. Having said that, the second big example I would say, somewhere you should just reach out and ask for help. Be it the biggest entrepreneurs out there of the country, right? I'll give you a very small example of myself. So if you guys are aware of the startup ecosystem, you might know someone named the ex CEO of NDTV, right? So basically, I reached out to him, Rahul Narvekar. I reached out to him over Facebook, right? I was sending cold messages to him, sir, I want to meet you, I want investments from you, etc. These were the early days of Hyper Exchange, right? And he texted me back. I was still in college, right? So I was in the classroom. He texted me back, can we have a call, right? And he called me up over Facebook itself, over the Messenger app, right? And I was sitting right there in my class. I just just took myself out, went to the washroom, took his call. We spoke for almost 15-20 minutes. Later, he never invested in the startup, but even today we are connected, and there are a lot of great connects and mentorship I received from him. This is about a person who is still in college, who is probably not even 20, right? Seeking mentorship or help from a person who is probably, have seen the industry for years and years and years, right? The very specific example that set out that day was people are there to help. You just need to seek out and reach out and ask for it, right? Third thing I would give an example would be, a very funny thing that happened is, the day you just heard about Shika speaking about CP Gundani coming on a board. So CP is actually on a board, and like HyperExchange has been invested by the Mindza Group. Like Anand Mindza is actually the investor on over HyperExchange, right? So there was this meeting with Anand way back around 2018 at Delhi, right? I and my co-founder, we were up all night getting a presentation done, which would pitch the next day. And since these are very confidential data, so we don't put this over drive. We usually carry this or pen drives or say hard disk, etc. Right? So late night, till late night we made the presentation. Early morning we had our flight to Delhi. Right? I reached over there, and while we were, going, we were in the taxi going over there to meet him. I just realized I forgot my pen drive, right? And if I, so my co-founder was already sweating and panting for breath, right? And if probably I had said him that day, I just forgot my pen drive, I think you probably have a heart attack, right? I went over there, I realized something had to be done. So I went over there. There was his PA who helped us with for getting the presentation done in terms of setting up the laptops and the presentation screens. And I don't even have the presentation over there with me. I just downloaded the so the like every presentation is basically slides you download and take that theme about, right? So I just downloaded the theme over there, right? And give the company name on the first slide of the presentation. That's usually what is the first slide, right? And I started pitching and said, I was just about to move to the next slide, which I did not have, right? And I just said, you know what, we have made enough presentations, and sir, you have seen enough number of presentations all throughout your life. Why don't I tell you the story? Why I started HyperExchange and how did I scale this up? I had my numbers, of course, in hand. And we had a next, so there were follow-up meetings before the actual investment happened, but we did crack it, right? So sometimes you might not be ready, and sometimes over the years, when you scale things up, things might be at a place where you do not even know what to do next. That is where you need to be street smart. You just need to do things which you think will somehow work out. It might not. You might fail. I have failed a lot number of times in many of the things I failed. This is how things will work out. This is how I can figure this out on the go. But I did not. But sometimes you just have to go by it because you do not have any other options. And this will be very, very true for anything you do in life. Be it probably, your say, for example, your semesters in college, or say, for example, you start something up or anything in life. This will be very true. Last and foremost thing, I always believe, that a lot of people ask me, like, should we start a startup or should we take a job after our graduation, right? Uh, we all have a different journey of our own. I mean, so basically post my Stanford thing, I had an offer from Microsoft California, a good package. So I rejected because I wanted to try something of my own and fail or say be successful in it, right? If it would not have been successful, it would have been my journey. I would never regret that I did not try. At the same time, if you're comfortable about going to a job, it really makes sense. Because say for example, for myself, I don't know a lot about the corporate culture, or say a lot of I do not have any corporate experience because I started very early in my life, right? uh, these are the things you need to analyze yourself. What is your journey? What are the things you are looking for in life? What is your passion? What is your dream? It's not always to make a difference by creating something. You can definitely make a difference working in a company, probably have a structured say for example structured environment where you get all the access and everything which is structured in a defined manner. You have the security of a say monthly salary. All those things definitely also falls in place. You need to realize what do you want to do in life. So it's a journey of your own, right? And I would always suggest realize things before it's too late. Because while starting early in your career is a very very added advantage, because there are not many say not many responsibilities, not many things in life. Say for example yourself, I mean, you think about, all right, fine, I'll probably do 10 years of I'll be 10 years in a corporate journey, right? Have a certain amount of bank balance and then start things up. You can never start things off, because when you have 10 years of bank balance with you, you have a certain lifestyle already, right? Coming out of that lifestyle is even more difficult. Realize this. Coming out of a certain lifestyle at any point is uneasy and very, very difficult. And 10 years down the line, things will be even more difficult because you'll have responsibilities of family, and all those things around, right? Things will be even more difficult if you try to come out of your journey, of your corporate journey, say for example, 10 years down the line. Start early. That's an added advantage. You guys are already in college. I mean, enjoy your time. I mean, I had the best time of my life in college. I still look forward to it. Probably going back someday once again with all the people around. Say my friends, my batch over there. You guys are probably living the best time of your life, but really be responsible about what you do, because what you do right now can really create or make a difference out there. Probably, say the next decade may be defined by you, what you start, what you do out there. I'm open for questions, right? And anything else you want to you want to ask me, you want me to share, I'm happy for that. Looking forward. Meanwhile, any one of you wants to reach out, I'll share my social media details. You can reach out to me over my handles. I'm open for questions. So Satyam, I did my mechanical engineering from SM University, Chennai, and post graduation MBA from Stanford. My motivation, as in, I did read a lot of books. All right. So I think, like anyone else, I think, the story about this, say Vijay Shekhar Sharma, the story of Steve Jobs, or say the story of Sachin Mansal coming from nowhere and building something which the world now looks around, are the stories that really made me, like really convinced me to believe in miracles to happen. Ronit, the question is, can we try to look after about jobs to take a glimpse of corporate world, or try? See, Ronit, as I just mentioned, I never advocate about starting up, right? I mean, there are a lot of people you might hear from time to time who might say, startup is the best thing you should do in life. I advocate you to figure out what is your personal motivation in life, right? While starting up early is definitely an advantage. You are already in college, you definitely have a entrepreneurship cell. There, guests speaking over there, sharing their story, helping you out, and all those things. At the same time, you need to realize, you need to figure out what is that motivation that really drives you. Is it about, we all come from a different background, right? We all have different, say, dreams in life. While miracles do happen, but that's 1%. Right? You need to figure out, are you willing to, give yourself a chance, which might be that 1% assurity, right? So, it's your journey, it's your call, definitely. But yes, starting up early is definitely an advantage above everything, while you do not have any experience as well. So that might be a disadvantage. So everything has two sides of the coin.
Sir, I had a question.
Sure.
So you briefed that you started out really early, and the first startup that you did was into fintech.
Right.
So if someone starts out during their college years, they would gradually learn about how they would be uh, existing on a minimal cash flows, because not everyone can get angel investors or VC
Correct. Correct.
backed at the very
Done.
start.
Yeah.
So could you brief more about how to survive on minimal cash flows to then grow your business into getting profits and getting ROIs and a sustainable cash flow?
Sure. Um, the best point over there is, say, I'll probably give a different example to this. How we started Hyper Exchange. All right. When we started Hyper Exchange, it was not about creating the first website and probably spending dollars over marketing. It was about creating the right channels. What I mean by right channels is figuring out how can we partner with the Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world, because they already have the footfall, right? They already have the footfall. Now I'm trying to create a website, and I'm expecting, say, for example, customers over there, or say footfall over there. I am basically, somewhere fighting against Amazon and Flipkart, which will never happen with the limited cash flows we have. So you need to figure out which are the channels which really works well, right? I all few days back, like, since I sit on a venture capital board as well. So a few days back, uh, 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 a startup pitched to me, which really mentioned about they are starting in a C2C segment, customer to customer segment, and they are building an app. The question is, why do you need to build an app? Why can't you create, say, two WhatsApp groups out there, right? Figure out the initial cash flows, where do you make money. Once you make money, you already have a set of tribes. That is a word. You already have a set of tribes. That is your customer base. Then go out and then pitch to someone and say, this is what I've already done with the limited things resources I already have. I need to scale this to 2x, 3x, 10x out there. And this is the amount of money I need. Because day one, when you're expecting someone to invest in you, you will not be able to manage your money. Say, for example, someone gives you a crore. What will you do with it? You don't have any idea, because you do not know what is the customer acquisition cost. How much do you need to spend to acquire a customer, right? You do not know what is the difference between Facebook customer acquisition cost and Google customer acquisition cost for your business, right? You cannot plan anything. So the day one is first realizing what your numbers are. To realize that, you need to create something called MVP, minimum viable product. Once
Yeah.
that is there, then you can just say, I can scale this to 10x, 20x, 30x. This is the amount of money I'm looking at.
Right. And how important do you feel is it to not get disheartened or not take criticism to heart? Because there will be a lot of hardship that people face. You might have faced, you must have faced rather in your time as well. And a lot of people do take it to heart, and then they start regretting on whether they should have stick to their original plan, or they should have not gone with uh, a startup at all. How important do you feel does that of a positive mindset role play in your own journey?
Akshay, I'll reply to this as, before I raised my first round of funds, I was rejected by over 500 investors. All right. That's probably a number even greater, not lesser. All right. Sometimes all you need to do is figure out that one person who believes in it. Everything will fall in place. As you scale, let's say, for example, I'll give you a very simple example called Netflix. Netflix initially was actually in a business where they were distributing DVDs. They
Right.
were distributing DVDs across US, right?
Right.
One certain morning, the Netflix CEO said, DVD is no more the business. The next generation business is actually which will stream online. This was a public company already back then, right? The entire board said, this guy is crazy. He's killing his own business, and so on and so forth. He said, if I'm not going to do this, someone else is going to do this and will be out of business very soon. Right? And we know what Netflix is today, right? A global brand out there. Right?
Yeah, you raised a very good point regarding that. That is what happened with Blockbuster getting out of business because they did not switch to the streaming platform.
Exactly. Sometimes all you need to realize is startup journey is almost like a dictatorship. All right. It cannot, you can hear a lot of suggestions from everyone. Right. End of the day, you need to analyze and figure out and take a decision and stick to it. Right. Be it your investors suggesting people who have put money in your venture and the dream. Everyone will give you suggestions. Everyone will tell you this is how to run the company. This is how to run the company. Right. But it has to be a dictatorship. It cannot be communalism. You cannot take everyone's advice and run the company in 10 different directions or 10 different ways. You need to figure out one way you need to run things out, right? So that you do not make mistakes in that journey, in that way you're looking at. Definitely, if things fall, it falls, but you figure out the next journey out there. But you have to stick to to your plans. You need to stick to your ideas. You need to believe in what you think is right.
Right. I think that could be summed up in like you should you should listen to opinions, but implementing those opinions should be your own decision.
Exactly.
Right.
So
sir, let me read out the questions for you.
Sure.
It will be easier. So sir, this question is from Weber. Sir, is there anything you will recommend us to do or learn during our college years?
Definitely. I mean, the college journey is a great journey, right? This is probably for the first time. I'm not sure if you guys are in the hostel, if you're still studying from home, but the hostel life teaches you a lot, right? My schooling was also in hostel, so basically, when you start to set yourself out from your home and the comfort zone, that's the first step. You learn a lot of different things. All right. I mean, you learn a lot of different things. You know how to manage things by your own. You start learning how to, gather confidence about say for example, when you probably have limited resources out there, right? But on the other hand, if you look at the college journey is so helpful because you have all time to spend, be it engineering, be it general studies, be it say financial studies, whatsoever. You have so much time to spend. Right? You could go out party for yourself, or you could probably drive your time to something which you think will be helpful. Right? That's the added advantage, and definitely with your esteemed professors out there, your dean, and everyone. Right? I think that's the biggest opportunity you already have. Probably 10 different friends, you guys speaking about 10 different ideas, figuring out what are the things other people think around, right? That's probably an opportunity in college which might not be over there when you probably just move out of those doors altogether.
A question from Bhargav. Sir, just now I have gone through the hyper exchange. Don't you think the prices are high? I think new products at the same price, at the same range, offer better value than the ones listed on the website.
Definitely, Bhargav, I would say one thing: not everyone is a customer. First and foremost thing, right? There are different values we create, right? Definitely, we're happy to discuss it, how we do it, what are the thought process around it, right? So yes, definitely. I mean, I would definitely take a suggestion on one point, right? But at the same time, I say, there has to be a lot detailed ideas and thought process behind it before figuring out the price ranges, etc.
A question from Ravi that, sir, how to manage that risk of starting up straight out of college?
Ravi, if you're planning to start up straight out of college, I would rather suggest you to start in college itself, right? You have your, as I just mentioned, you already have your, say, incubation cell, you already have your entrepreneurship cell out there, right? So the chance of failure is much lesser. The chances of failure is much lesser right now than you'd, than you'd, probably would say fail once you move out of college, figuring out should I get a job, should I start something up, right? If you fail early, learn early, right? But don't take yourself to a point where it's either this or that. I just have 2 months to figure out, can I run a startup? No, you cannot run a startup in 2 months. There has to be at least a couple of years dedicated time towards it, 24/7, day in and day out, doing the same thing, repeated thing over and over again. That's how you start things up. So if you're thinking to start post college, sorry, I would suggest you to start in college itself.
Another question from Ritik is that why most of the startups are D2C?
Most of the startups are D2C because the customer value that happens in the ecosystem over a period of time is generally much higher. In terms of B2B, that is business to business, it's generally where you cannot say, for example, give you a very small example today. Say Uber started with a model where they were almost providing free rides in their early days, right? And sorry about that. And today, if you look at Uber, most of the times they are charging such prices out there, right? 2.5x, 3x, 4x, right? When direct to a customer, when you go to a customer directly and make it a habit for them, you can create greater value. That's called lifetime value of a customer. You can create greater value over a period of time, and which is probably not possible in terms of business say ventures, because in that case it's usually where there are defined guidelines, there are defined SOPs and defined, say for example, price points already. So that is the reason most brands prefer to go D2C than B2B.
A question from Prince Kumar that if I have a startup idea, then where should I go to implement it?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
That if I have a startup idea, then where should I go to implement it?
The first and foremost customers, I would say, start something. As I I already mentioned this, but on a repetitive note, anything you plan about has to be implemented in a very, very small scale. That could be your set of friends, probably your college mates, probably that could be a target audience, probably in your locality, or so on and so forth. Implement it in a small scale. Figure out what are the issues, what are the things you need to pivot on. Figure out what the things really working out well, and probably how can you do that 2x, 3x, 4x, and what are the things not working well. So you can just eliminate those things. Once you have that specific set of customers, now go out in the market and probably reach out to people, as I just mentioned, reach out to people out there, right? Seek help, seek mentorship, say people who have seen the game, who have done this thing twice, thrice in their life already. Reach out to them, seek help, and you can definitely create what you're trying to do.
A question from Sarthak that, sir, as we climb higher up in positions, our role shifts to the management side of things. So isn't it better to focus more on management side from then starting than technological as a startup founder and hire person for tech?
Sarthak, a very simple example is, say for myself, all right, I did my graduation in mechanical engineering, right? But today, any role that has to be managed, say for example, the finance role, say for example the technology role, or say the HR role, or anything, right? Everything initially you have to do by your own, right? When in a startup, you do not have, that is the difference between a startup and working for a corporate. In a corporate, you have specified role and you have a specified project and you have specified deliverables. In a startup, you have to do everything out there, right? Right from hiring your first employees to probably, managing how to, how to file your books by the end of the financial year, to figuring out how to scale, how to raise investments, how to probably even look for an office out there, right? Those everything you have to do on your own, because unless you do, say for example, if you are probably from a finance background altogether and you do not know anything about technology, how will you manage a CTO tomorrow? Any technology officer you bring, uh, unless you know at least by the initial depth, how will you believe what someone else is telling to you? Managing a team is very, very difficult, right? Being a manager does not mean where you do not have a hindsight about things which are happening in your startup. Being a manager actually means you know everything out there, at least to a certain depth. So tomorrow, anyone telling you, why Magento is better than Shopify, you could actually figure out in terms of technology. Or say, if anyone is telling you, say for example, how circles work better in terms of HR, you can actually figure out what is actually the SOPs around it. So you need to know at least the initial details about every sector out there.
Another question from Palela, that which area of society is recommendable and have more scope of development where we can start a startup?
Palila, the biggest thing about a startup is not about industries. It's about finding the right problem and figuring out how big is the problem in terms of customer segment, right? Say for example, if you feel, um, you know, uh, uh, let me give you a small example. Say if you feel, bottles should not have caps altogether because opening a bottle cap is probably a hassle, right? But is that a real problem? Is that what really people think about it, right? On the other hand, think about why the e-commerce industry happened in India. Today, Flipkart sits almost at 36, $38 billion valuation. Why? Is Flipkart the first e-commerce in India, or is Flipkart the first e-commerce in the world? No, Flipkart happened because of one thing. That is, these two guys figured out in India, internet has not yet penetrated to a point where people are okay to transact online. In India, people do not have credit cards or say debit cards enough to transact online, and people do not trust in paying online upfront. Right? These are early days of 2014, 2015, and they said, why can't we do something cash on delivery? Right? That is the one thing that changed the e-commerce industry in India forever. Not Amazon, no, no, say foreign brands ever had an idea like cash on delivery can ever be a thing. They said, you are anyway paying me the cash before I give you the before I give you the product. So how about you give me the cash and not pay online altogether, right? This simple problem statement that they realized changed the e-commerce industry altogether. So there's enough innovation in every industry. You just need to figure out what is the problem statement, and you need to realize how big is the market, how many people are actually having the same problem out there. Any industry has a lot of opportunities out there.
So since we're focusing this much on things you pick up along the way, can you share some of the habits that you've picked up along your journey that have impacted on how you work, how you approach things on a day-to-day basis?
Definitely, I think few of the things I picked up myself was the first and foremost thing I would always say is always having a vision. I mean, what I mean by vision is, see, anything you start, you first focus on generating revenues. While that is true, you need to figure out anyone can make money out there. You can buy a product for 10 rupees and sell for 12 rupees. That's the easy process. You need to figure out what is the story you are telling out there to the world. What I mean by story is what is the impact you're creating by the venture you're doing. Right? Can't some, again, the same example. Can't anyone sell things online? Everyone can do. Can't anyone say sell things offline? Anyone can do. Why is Flipkart so successful? Because it told a story like, I am giving the advantage where I deliver the products to you at your home, sitting at your home, and probably in a day or two, and you can probably you can almost have a touch and feel like an experience, because I give you the product details, I give you the pictures and everything around it. That's the only simple point. It mentioned the point about convenience, right? What is the story you are telling out there? That is very important, rather than just figuring out what is the business I am in, how much I am making end of the day. I have seen people who have been in this very similar industry of refurbish more than I have been there. But they probably only have a shop out there, and selling probably 100 products out there on a single day. Here we are sitting at a at a base where we sell, we sell and ship almost 50,000 products a day. Here we are going global with our US operations, European operations, etc. Why? Because we have focused on one story, that is sustainability, that is planet consciousness. We have focused on those things. It's not about running due diligence in terms of valuations, etc. It's about running a due diligence in terms of the climate impacts we are creating out there. How much carbon dioxide we are reducing on a regular basis. How much e-waste production we are reducing on a regular basis. Those are the things at a higher level. You need to focus on figure out what is the brand journey. That don't happen in a day. And I'm definitely sure, even for us, it will take a long, long time. But those are the things you need to figure out, you need to work on. If you're a trader, you probably already have a couple of billions of dollars to say, I will figure out and tell you what are the, hidden charges in terms of your credit card, right? And if you're not a trade, if you're probably building something up from scratch, it will take you longer. But you need to figure out what is one line story that you have to say, right? Those are the things anyone has to figure, focus and work on as this game in the journey.
Okay, so another question from Palila, that best way to advertise our startup or product when a startup is in initial stage and we have less money.
That is, always social media. All right. When I mean by social media, it's not about Facebook marketing. Rather than joining, so there are hundreds and thousands of different groups, and every, take any topic, there will be at least 50, 100 groups out there focus on that topic itself. Join those Facebook groups, join those LinkedIn groups, right? Advertise over there. Create a post. Start reaching out to people over LinkedIn, right? These things are very important, and that's the initial journey I have done myself, and I think that's the initial way to reach out to people any day.
Okay. A question from Ravi, that will it be helpful to visit those startups who have started up recently to learn the problems in starting up a company?
Definitely, Ravi. If you join the startup right after your graduation, rather than joining probably a TCS or a CapG, right? It will help you understand a lot of things. While probably you speak directly to your co-founders and the CEO, right? You have access to everyone out there. At the same time, you know what are the issues and challenges scaling a startup, right? Any startup will have its own challenges. Any startup will have its own issues, and learning at the code at the scratch is the best way to go ahead. Uh, Definitely, I always would definitely say, join the startup right after your graduation if you're looking for a job, rather than joining probably the TCS of the world.
Okay. This question is asked by Piyush, that some key points to make a convincing presentation for the investors.
Piyush, any investor that invests in your startup first needs to figure out you have a grip about, as I just mentioned, you have a grip about how will you use the investments, right? So learning those basic numbers is important. And the other point, if you're raising for the first time in your life, you need to convince them why this is something that they will part their money with, right? When I say that, there has to be a story around it. I mean, you could definitely say, I started a startup, but I don't have cash with me, right? And that is the reason I'm looking for investments from you. But when you go to an investor and say, this is the thing I started, I have probably mortgaged my home, I have probably taken up bank loans, etc., and given everything to this, that is where it creates a belief. It creates a belief that this is the thing you are going to scale for probably 5, 7, 10 years of your life, or else someone invests in you, and definitely tomorrow you can say, I am no more interested in this, I'm just walking off, because you don't have a skin in the game. You need to make sure you make someone believe that you do have your skin in the game. This is the idea you think is the best thing in the world, because unless you do that, unless you are convinced this is a thing, that could be 10, 20, $100 million sometime down the line, why will someone else just part their money for you? That is the thing you need to focus on. That is the story at your early days you need to create, you actually need to manage.
Hitesh has asked a question that, sir, can you share some examples of startups you have seen in nowadays?
Sure, Ritesh. I think just last Sunday, I was at IM Shillong judging one of their pitching events, right? And all across the IM, from IM Ahmedabad to IM Bangalore, right? There were hundreds of different startups that pitched over there, and the final 11 startups.
हाँ आ रहे हाँ आ रहे अंकित
Shruti, can
आ
you
गया
mute him?
बाहर
Shruti.
So, out of hundreds of startups out there, 11 topmost startups were pitching for the final session, and and most of the ideas have around been sustainability. What I say about that is about how people are creating sustainable fabrics out there, how people are managing to figure out. Say, for example, an interesting idea I came across was someone has created a device which figures out where are the cracks in a railway line. This was a surprising thing to hear. There are 2 lakh people employed by the railway authority who walks 8 kilometers of distance to figure out whether cracks in the railway, because railway accidents are one of the most common accidents out there. And not just that, even say, for example, for the mines out there where they use internal tracks, right? They have losses over crores when say the tracks crack, the railway lines crack over there, and probably say, for example, the coal they're trying to mine now spills over, and there are certain areas which is so deep that even human cannot enter, right? So there was this interesting startup which actually pitched about not just pitched, he has already made a product, he has a patent on that, right? Which figures out the cracks in a railway and tells you the exact time this is going to, you have 5 days before the crack spills over and creates an accident out there. So I think, there are a lot of work which are happening at the grassroots level, right? And I think these are the actual problem statements that people have been able to realize and figured out, which is doing great work. And one more example I'll give you, which I definitely liked, was a person has created something. Say, for example, we have this chula, right, at homes, say, in villages, right, where they cook food, right? And it creates a lot of, say, since the wood is improperly burned, so it creates a lot of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide and all those factors. He has created a chula, which actually allows you to have uniform uh, uh, the burning of wood and another coal and etc. Right. Not just this. So to make this a village level thing, a grassroots level thing, the way he has actually designed it, it's almost like using a sewing machine, where it's like you put your foot up and down to sue, right? And that is the exact thing that people in villages are accepting, because they say, it's almost like a machine. We already use it at home. Maybe this is something I can just add up to in my kitchen. So realizing how to convince a customer, right, or say your customer point is a very important thing, right? These are few of the examples I just spoke about, which are happening at a grassroots level, which I'm coming across, lately.
Sir,
So I have a question to ask.
yeah, sure.
So there's any lowest point in your journey when you might have thought of quitting your idea?
Uh, I think lowest points happen on a regular basis. I mean, as you scale, right, problems don't end. Problems actually becomes bigger. Running a startup from your college, you might need to figure out that first 1 crore say investment. But say now scaling across the globe, you need to figure out on a regular basis about the next 100 crores worth of investment, because you figure out probably you're running out of cash, this, that, scale, and these are the things you need to do. This is the branding expense you have to have, all those things. So I think lowest points happen on a regular basis, but there's a belief inside, right? That makes you say, no, I already see the horizon probably where this could be the next unicorn, and this is already the next IPO over NASDAQ, right? That belief keeps you moving.
Sir, sir,
Yeah, go on.
sir, if we implement idea in a in a small way, but it fails to return, we want to. तो sir,
Fail early.
आगे क्या करें?
Yeah, if you fail early, you realize the pain points around it, and you know why it failed. Not every idea has to be successful. So, but you learn a lot around implementing an idea. When you implement an idea, you get to know how the operations actually works around it, right? Failure is never a thing which does not happen. I have failed in multiple ideas I had tried to implement over the years. And it's absolutely okay. Not everything has to work. Something, overnight you might think this is a brilliant thing that can work, this can create this change, that change. And then you actually go out in the market and realize, no, this is probably not even a thing which people actually like about. So fail early, and failure is not something which won't be there. It will always be there, but you'll get to learn when you implement something for the next time.
Thank you, sir.
Participants, we'll be taking a couple of more questions. We're on a time limit, and I'm sure sir is also taking out his valuable time for us, so we'll not take much of his time. So a couple of more questions, and then we'll wrap up the session.
Sir, how did you convince your parents to leave Microsoft job and trust your idea that you can manage a startup in just very young age of 18?
As I just mentioned, I have stayed, most of my life in hostel, right? So whatever I am doing has to be, just a phone call, probably a week, and say, this is what I am at already, right? So, sometimes, and even, at HyperAction, I always tell my employees this thing: never ask for permissions. If you fail, just come back and apologize. Say sorry, that's okay. But never ask for permissions, because when you're asking for permissions, right, that is the point where things will never happen. I'll give you a very small example that happened recently at at my startup. So one of the employees is actually from a different I would say from a different division altogether. She wants to do something else, right? And when she went out and asked her senior, like, this is what I want to do, right? He said, no, this is not your forte. This is not something you can do. You already have so much responsibilities already. Why are you trying to do something else? And she came, she came down to me directly and said, this is what I feel I can do great. I said one simple thing: what have you done around it? Have you done anything around it? You just say, I want to do it. But do something around it. Go create, the thing you're trying to do is create some leads out there. Figure out, you already have few leads out there. Just come down to me and say, I have already created this leads. Now I want to take this forward. right? Can you probably push me out from that section and move me into this section? All you're doing is you're trying to convince me over here that no, I don't want to be over here. I want to be over here. But why? Why will someone believe in you? Do something around it. Do the smallest delta change around it. And once you have already done it, once you probably come to me with few leads and say, this is what I've already done, and this is what I want to scale with them. I want to convince this part of customers and not work in this section of the world. You're already there, right? So don't ask for permissions. Rather go out and say something goes wrong, say sorry.
So this question is asked by Ravi that which way is efficient between learning business in business schools or starting and then learning things on the way?
Both has its own advantages. I mean, while education is very important, right, it should never be looked down upon, right? I mean, if you're not sincere about the thing you are doing, say today when you are probably giving an examination, if you're not serious and sincere about it, tomorrow you cannot be sincere about the thing you are doing in terms of scaling your business as well, right? So both are equally important unless you have the basic knowledge and things out there. I mean, unless you know your say ABCD, you can never go on and plan to write a novel, right? So similarly, unless you know the basics of say education, you can never go on and implement things and ideas out there, right? Though, and if you read about dropouts, I would always say read about dropouts because they are probably drop off from the Ivy League colleges out there, right? So don't go by stories which tells you you should drop out and start something and probably you'll be a genius out there. Be dedicated, whatever you do. Right? Be it your today your examinations, be tomorrow your startup, day after tomorrow a job you are in. Be dedicated, be sincere, and take everything up on a serious note and responsibility.
Just to add
Okay.
to Sir's answer, if you all have looked up how getting into a B school works, so they place great importance of the work experience that you've had, and that is like a knowledge that they try to enhance. So if you go with a certain degree of work experience, getting to know the industry basics beforehand, they could help you enhance that more further as you go. Whereas if you go like a blind just after say undergrad, you join a B school, you won't have that much industry knowledge. You would have heard things, but there's this thing that you'll have theoretical knowledge but not practical knowledge, and that is what they're keen for. So if you have that work experience along with you, that would help you really in say whichever B school you join. I think sir would back me on this point. And
Absolutely, I second you on that.
right, so I think that is all the time we have, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. It was an absolutely wonderful and insightful session from your end. Personally, for me, I learned a lot of things, and I hope everyone else also did. I think you shared your contact
Yes,
details with them. So, guys, if you want to get in touch with sir, you can. You can get in touch with us, and we can get you in touch with sir that way also.
sure.
And if that is everything, we can wrap up the session. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
sir.
much. Thank you. Take care, guys. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Sudeep sir.